The stars outside the window of the survey ship Horizon looked peaceful as always. Space stretched wide and endless, filled with glowing dust clouds and faraway suns, and inside the ship everything seemed routine. The crew had spent days scanning mineral belts, recording data, and laughing through long hours. Captain Elias sat in the command chair with a relaxed posture, sipping from his cup of coffee, while two officers argued playfully about who had the worst handwriting in the log entries. To them, this was another quiet mission, another calm day in the unending dark. Nothing special at all. Nobody felt the weight of where they were heading. Nobody thought the border ahead could matter in any real way. For them, it was just another line on a map drawn by human explorers who never thought twice before pushing farther. The navigation screen beeped softly as the ship drifted closer to a sector marked with faint warning signals. The lines on the map were thin and vague, almost like someone had half-heartedly drawn them centuries ago and forgotten to update. The pilot, a young woman named Rena, leaned back in her seat and said in a casual tone, "We're crossing into the shaded zone. Does anyone want me to detour, or should I just go through it?" Her words carried no tension, only the laziness of a routine question. The crew barely looked up. One of the engineers, Marcus, shrugged while chewing a protein bar. "Go through. Shorter route. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Space police fine us for trespassing?" Everyone laughed lightly. Even Captain Elias gave a small smile, waving his hand as if to approve the casual choice. The Horizon slid forward into the unmarked region, engines humming softly, lights flickering over the control panels. No alarms screamed. No sudden shock shook the ship. It felt exactly like any other part of space. The crew continued with their chatter, talking about food, about old games on Earth, about how boring long missions could be. To them, the border meant nothing. Yet somewhere deep inside the ship's sensors, faint signals stirred. A flicker of data crossed the screens but vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. The computer recorded it quietly without raising an alarm, because the anomaly was too small to classify as dangerous. Only one crew member, the science officer Leanne, noticed the unusual spike on her console. She frowned, tapped the screen, and muttered under her breath, "Strange interference. Just be cosmic dust." She hesitated for a moment, biting her lip as if considering telling the captain, but then shook her head and decided against it. It felt too minor, too unimportant to ruin the relaxed mood on board. Outside, far beyond their sight, something stirred in the shadows of the void. Invisible to human eyes, cloaked shapes shifted position, known ships, massive and silent, watched the small human craft intruding on territory that was never meant to be touched. For centuries, those watchers had remained still, guarding borders. No human had ever dared to cross. Now, for the first time, a human vessel drifted past the line, as if it were nothing more than empty space. The watchers did not reveal themselves yet, but signals passed silently among them, messages moving faster than light, alerting their kind that an intrusion had occurred. Decisions were being made far away in hidden chambers, and the fate of the human crew balanced on those unseen choices. Yet inside the Horizon, none of this was known. Marcus put his feet up on the console, joking about how their mission pay was not enough for the boredom they suffered. Rena hummed a tune as she adjusted the navigation to auto. Elias leaned back, his eyes half closed, speaking about his plans once they returned home. Leanne still stared at her console from time to time, noticing tiny flickers of unreadable data. Something in her gut whispered this was not normal, but the calm around her, the laughter of her crew, and the ordinary flow of the ship made her doubt herself. She told herself it was nothing, a trick of her tired mind. The Horizon scanners caught another faint flash, a signature that lasted less than a second, almost like a shadow moving across starlight. This time the computer registered it as an unknown pattern and logged it for later analysis. Nobody looked at the log. The crew were too busy telling stories. In the dining area, a couple of them had started a game of cards. The sound of shuffling and laughter filled the air. The sense of safety was almost too strong, like a blanket covering the truth of where they were. Outside, in the deep silence of space, one of the hidden watchers moved closer. Its massive form, shielded in layers of energy fields, slipped forward like a ghost. For the briefest moment, the Horizon's external cameras caught a flicker of something large moving, then it was gone. Rena blinked at her screen, tilted her head, and tapped a few buttons. "Weird glitch," she murmured, then dismissed it. None of them could imagine that what they had just seen was no glitch at all, but a warship capable of wiping out planets. As the Horizon crossed deeper into the Forbidden Zone, a sense of unease finally brushed against Leon's mind. She leaned toward Elias and opened her mouth to speak, but then stopped when she saw the captain smiling and telling a story about his childhood. Everyone around looked so calm, so careless, as if nothing in the galaxy could ever threaten them. She decided to stay quiet. She folded her arms and told herself she was imagining things, but in the silence outside, the watchers had already marked the humans. Their presence was recorded, their every movement tracked. The order had been given: observe first, then decide if they must be destroyed. And still, inside the Horizon, the humans laughed, drifting unknowingly into the heart of a territory that no other race had dared to treat so casually. Far away from the laughter inside the Horizon, an entire world of silence existed. In the hidden void just beyond human sensors, enormous alien vessels floated like shadows carved from the dark itself. These ships had no shining lights, no visible exhaust, and no sound to announce their presence. They had been there for centuries, waiting and watching, guarding the boundary that humans had just crossed without care. For the aliens, this border was not only a military line, it was sacred ground, a line of history, memory, and blood. Generations ago, wars had been fought here, empires had risen and fallen, and a treaty had sealed this space as forbidden for all who valued their survival. And now, for the first time, a fragile human vessel drifted across, acting as if none of that mattered. Inside the lead alien ship, a vast chamber glowed with shifting lights. Tall figures stood around a central display where the image of the Horizon shimmered like a captured insect under glass. The aliens had eyes that glowed with pale fire, their movements slow and deliberate.
Ow.
Every gesture precise as though weighed by centuries of discipline. They spoke in low tones that reverberated across the chamber, their language a mixture of clicks and resonant hums that no human ear could ever understand without a machine to translate, yet the meaning was sharp and clear among them. An intruder had come. A decision was required. One of the alien commanders stepped forward. His form was covered in armor that seemed alive, shifting with faint pulses of energy. His voice carried weight, echoing like thunder, even though it was calm. "The humans have crossed the line. They do not even slow. We treat this ground as empty." His words rippled through the chamber. Another alien, older and marked with glowing scars across his head, tilted his gaze at the projection. "They are ignorant. They do not know the cost of crossing here. Destroy them now, and the balance remains." But others shook their heads. A female figure, her eyes sharper and colder than the rest, spoke with a voice like crystal. "Ignorant or not, they must be measured. Species that walks into fire without fear deserves to be studied before it is crushed." The debate grew. Some called for immediate destruction, arguing that rules were rules and that the humans were trespassers who could not be allowed to live. Others argued for patience, for observation, to see what kind of race could enter sacred ground with such carelessness. For them, humans were like a puzzle, reckless, yes, but also calm in their recklessness. A strange mix that unsettled even the most ancient of watchers. Back on the Horizon, the crew still had no clue of the eyes fixed upon them. Leanne, once again, noticed strange readings on her console. A faint spike, then another, like heartbeats from something huge, lurking beyond their sight. She adjusted the scanner range, but the results came back blank. She sighed and rubbed her forehead. Maybe it was equipment malfunction, maybe her own tired mind. She thought about reporting it, but again chose silence. The others would only laugh, and she did not want to ruin the relaxed mood of the ship. In the alien chamber, however, the humans were being recorded from every angle. Every sound on their ship, every word spoken, every laugh and gesture was mirrored onto alien screens. The watchers studied them carefully. They saw Marcus with his feet on the console, eating carelessly. They saw Elias leaning back with easy confidence. They saw Rena humming and flying the ship with a half smile, as if danger was the last thing she could imagine. The aliens expected fear. They expected trembling, panic, or at least suspicion. Instead, what they saw unsettled them. Humans treated the forbidden as ordinary. They treated the line between life and death as if it were just another direction on a star map. The female watcher narrowed her eyes. "They do not fear us," she said. "Even in ignorance, they should feel unease. Yet look at them. They laugh. They relax. They are blind to the blade at their throat," another replied with a deep growl. "Blindness is not courage." But she shook her head. "Perhaps, or perhaps, they carry something else. Something we do not yet understand." The horizon drifted deeper into alien territory, crossing a region where old battlefields still floated as dust and shattered wreckage. To the crew, it was nothing more than unusual asteroid debris. To the aliens, it was holy ground, the bones of history. Leanne stared out of the viewport, watching the silent ruins float past. She felt uneasy, a shiver creeping down her spine. "Feels strange here," she whispered to herself. Nobody else paid attention. The watchers tightened their net around the humans. Invisible fields locked into place, surrounding the horizon like a cage that could snap shut at any moment. The alien commander raised a hand, his voice steady. "We will not strike yet. Let us see how they act. Let us test them before judgment." Silent agreement spread through the chamber. The order was given. "Observe. Wait. Decide later." Back on the horizon, Marcus yawned loudly. "Another dead zone of space," he joked. "I'm telling you, one day we'll find something exciting, but not today." His words carried the irony of a man unaware that death itself was already watching him. Elias chuckled at the comment. Completely at ease, while Leanne pressed her hand against the console, trying to calm the quiet storm of instinct telling her something was wrong. Far away in the dark, alien eyes never blinked. The humans had crossed the line, and now the watchers waited to see if they were fools rushing to their deaths, or a force greater than anyone had imagined. The horizon drifted deeper into the shadowed sector, its engines humming with a steady rhythm, its crew still unaware of the silent eyes watching from all sides. For the humans, the journey was no different than any other, a simple path through. Another patch of stars, they joked. They worked half-heartedly. They carried themselves with a strange calm that made the hours feel harmless. But something was waiting ahead, something that would shatter their illusion of safety. It began with the faintest flicker. A shadow moved across the navigation screen for less than a second before disappearing. Rena blinked at the flash and frowned, leaning forward. "That's odd. Did anyone else catch that?" she asked, her tone still light. Elias turned his head lazily, half interested. "Catch what?" Rena tapped the screen again, replaying. The sensor feed. For a heartbeat, a massive outline appeared, far larger than any asteroid or debris. Then it vanished as if it had never been there. "It's probably a glitch," Marcus said with a laugh. "Half our systems are older than me. Don't stress over it." The others chuckled, but Leanne stayed quiet. Her stomach tightened, her instincts whispering louder than before. Moments later, the ship's scanners pulsed a warning. A sharp tone rang through the control room. This time it wasn't a glitch. The entire crew froze as the computer spoke in its flat voice. "Unidentified object detected. Range, 2,000 kilometers. Closing fast." Silence fell over the horizon. The calm broke. Elias straightened in his chair, setting his coffee aside. "Show me," he ordered, and Rena pulled the image onto the central screen. At first, the stars looked as normal as ever. Then, slowly, space itself seemed to ripple. Something vast emerged from nothing, as if reality had been peeled back to reveal a hidden monster beneath. A colossal vessel shimmered into existence, its surface alive with lines of light that twisted like veins of fire. The ship dwarfed the horizon, a predator staring at prey. Its sudden appearance was so unnatural that every human on board felt the air grow heavy, their breath shallow. The void was no longer empty. Marcus whispered, "That's no glitch." His joking tone was gone. Elias leaned forward, his voice steady but hard. "Shields up. Do not provoke. Let's see what it wants." The alien warship hung in silence, its hull shifting with patterns the crew could not understand. A long minute, nothing happened. Then the Horizon's comm system came alive with a burst of sound. At first it was only static, harsh, sharp, painful to the ears. Then the static formed into a series of deep tones, layered and alien, a voice that did not belong to any human throat. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Leanne activated the translator AI, her hands moving quickly. The program strained, breaking down the strange language into fragments. Finally, the words came through, rough, but clear enough to chill them all. "You have crossed into sacred ground," the message repeated, stronger the second time. The room went silent except for the hum of the ship. Rena swallowed, her hands trembling slightly over the controls. Marcus forced a laugh, though it came out weak. "Well, that answers what the shadow was." Elias didn't laugh. His eyes locked on the screen, his mind running through possibilities. He pressed the come button, his voice calm and level. "This is Captain Elias of the human vessel Horizon. We mean no harm. We did not intend to trespass." The translator AI repeated his words into the alien tongue, sending them back into the void. The alien ship responded with silence. Seconds passed like hours. Then the voice came again, this time sharper, edged with authority. "You cross knowing nothing. You cross with no fear. Explain this, or be erased." The crew stiffened at the words. Erased. The translator had chosen the word carefully. This was not a simple warning. It was a threat of destruction, Marcus muttered under his breath. "Guess they're not big on hospitality." Rena looked pale, her hand hovering near the emergency thrusters. Leanne stared at the screen, her earlier instincts confirmed in the worst possible way. Elias remained calm, but inside he felt the weight of every soul on board pressing down on his shoulders. The alien warship shifted, its surface glowing brighter, as if preparing for something. Energy built up around its massive frame, lighting the void with an eerie blue glow. It was a clear show of power, a demonstration meant to terrify. Yet the humans did not scream, it did not break. Elias leaned back slightly, his voice even. As he spoke again, "We are explorers. We did not see your lines. We will turn back if that is your law, but we will not beg. That is not our way." The translator echoed his words across the void. For a moment, silence returned. The alien ship did not fire. Instead, the lights across its surface slowed their pulsing. Deep within its chambers, the watchers observed. They had expected fear, panic, pleading for mercy. Instead, the humans responded with strange calm, even casual defiance. It unsettled them more than fear ever could. On the horizon, the crew sat frozen, waiting for the next move. Rena whispered they could destroy us in a second. Elias nodded slightly, his face unreadable. "Yes, but they haven't. That means they're curious. Curiosity can be our shield if we play this right." The alien voice returned one last time, slower now, almost testing the words. "You will remain. You will be measured." Then the channel went silent again, but the warship did not leave. It stayed massive and immovable, blocking the stars like a wall of judgment. The Horizon was no longer alone in the void. The first contact had begun, and it was not meant to happen this way. The Horizon floated under the shadow of the alien warship, so small that it looked like a speck of dust before a mountain. The crew sat tense, every light on their panels glowing with warnings, yet the air inside the human ship was strangely calm. The threat was clear. One strike from the alien vessel could erase them from existence. But instead of panic, the humans carried themselves with an odd composure, as if they were not staring death in the face, but only another obstacle to be managed. Marcus broke the silence first. He leaned back in his chair, exhaled slowly, and said with a smirk, "Well, at least we finally found something interesting. Beat staring at rocks all day." His attempt at humor was out of place, but it cracked through the tension. Rena gave a nervous chuckle and shook her head. Only you would joke at a time like this. Elias glanced at them, the corner of his lips twitching in the smallest hint of a smile. He didn't encourage laughter, but he didn't shut it down either. Calm was what they needed, and if jokes could hold the crew steady, then so be it. The alien ship remained silent, its lights dimming and brightening in slow patterns. It was a test, a silent weight pressing down on the humans, daring them to break. The watchers inside the alien vessels studied every detail of the Horizon's crew. They waited for pleading, for fear, for desperation. They expected begging voices and frantic actions. Instead, they saw humans moving slowly, speaking casually, almost dismissing the danger. This made them hesitate. Fear they understood, courage they respected, but this calm, this casual disregard was alien even to them. Elias pressed the come again, his voice steady. We crossed unknowingly. If this place is sacred to you, then we will leave. We will not kneel. That is not who we are. His words echoed into the translator and out into the void. They were bold words, dangerous ones. But they came without trembling. The alien ship gave no direct answer, but its presence shifted. The glow along its hull grew sharper, then faded again, like a living heartbeat slowing down. Inside the Horizon, the crew stared at the screen, waiting for the next move. Minutes passed. The silence was heavy. Leanne finally spoke, her voice low but firm. They're watching us. Every second, measuring what we do, how we act. She looked at Elias. They want to see if we break. Elias nodded slowly. Then we won't. Rena glanced at him nervously. It's easier said than done when that thing could vaporize us with one shot. Marcus chuckled again, shaking his head. If they wanted us gone, we'd already be dust. They're curious. That's our shield. Back in the alien chamber, the watchers debated in hushed tones. The female with the cold eyes spoke again. They respond with balance. Not fear, not submission. They walk the line between respect and defiance. Another answered, his voice deep with suspicion. It could be arrogance. It could be blindness. She tilted her head. Or it could be something we have not seen in countless ages. A race that does not bend so easily. The humans continued their work inside the Horizon as though normal tasks mattered. Marcus checked the engines. Rena recalibrated the thrusters. Leanne watched her sensors carefully, recording every flicker of data. They acted like a crew doing their job, refusing to give the alien presence the satisfaction of panic. Still, unease lingered in the quiet spaces between their voices. Everyone knew one wrong move could end everything. The alien ship finally sent another message. The voice, deep and resonant, filled the control room once again. You crossed into sacred ground. You do not kneel. You do not fear. Why? The words were sharp, demanding. Elias leaned forward, his expression calm. Because fear serves nothing, he said. Because we live by moving forward, across lines. That is how we exist. The translation carried his answer back to the warship. Inside the alien chamber, silence followed. The watchers considered the words heavy with meaning. They were used to races begging for life, offering tribute, swearing obedience. Yet here was a human captain, speaking with quiet certainty, treating them not as gods to be worshipped, but as equals to be reasoned with. Marcus muttered under his breath after the channel closed. Think they bought it? Rena shot him a look. But Elias only said, they're still listening. That's enough for now. For hours, the alien ship remained close, following the Horizon's every move, but it did not attack. It seemed to circle them like a predator studying prey, waiting to see what else the humans would reveal. The crew felt the weight of invisible eyes pressing against their skin. Yet they kept their rhythm, kept their calm, kept acting as if nothing extraordinary was happening. At one point, Marcusa leaned toward Leon and whispered, I bet they're expecting us to freak out. Imagine their faces watching us eat noodles while they glow all menacing. Leanne smirked despite herself, shaking her head. You're ridiculous. But even she admitted quietly, Maybe ridiculous is working. The alien commander, watching. The feet of the human ship finally spoke in his own chamber. They do not beg, they do not fear. They are unsettling. His words carried across the council. The female watcher's eyes narrowed. Yes, perhaps more dangerous than any who have come before. On the horizon, Elias finally rose from his chair and stood tall before the screen showing the alien warship. He folded his hands behind his back, his posture calm, his gaze steady. He spoke softly but with weight, words meant as much for his crew as for the watchers beyond. If they want to measure us, let them see the truth. We are human. We don't turn back from the unknown. We step forward, no matter what waits. The crew listened, and something steadied inside them. Fear didn't vanish, but it transformed into resolve. The alien warship still glowed in the void, but the humans no longer felt small. They felt like themselves, defiant, curious, unbroken. The horizon remained under the shadow of the alien warship for what felt like forever. Hours passed, the humans holding their calm, the aliens watching in silence. Then, without warning, the alien vessel shifted position. Its lights brightened. Pulsing with energy like veins of fire, signals surged across space, striking the horizon systems. The control room filled with alarms, red lights flashing. The translator AI decoded the incoming message, and the deep alien voice rolled through the ship. You will be tested. Only those who endure may leave. The words struck the crew like a weight. Elias clenched his jaw, but stood steady. Renus. Fingers tightened on the controls. Marcus muttered something about hating exams. And Leanne stared at the glowing symbols appearing on her console. The test was not just a threat. It was already beginning. The horizon systems flickered. The lights dimming. Gravity wavered for a moment, throwing objects gently into the air before stabilizing again. The crew scrambled to reset panels, but the screens filled with strange alien patterns. The ship was no longer under their full control. Something vast and invisible had seized them, pulling them into a trial they didn't understand. The view. Outside changed. The stars bent and twisted, then vanished. The horizon was dragged into a region that felt like a pocket of space, a hidden arena surrounded by darkness thicker than night. Massive structures floated, their remnants of alien. Machines broken and ancient, forming a labyrinth of wreckage. Some were twisted like claws, others shaped like walls of bone and stone. The place felt alive, as if history itself was watching. Marcus whispered, his voice low. What is this place? Len swallowed hard. An arena. You want to see if we survive. The alien voice returned, vibrating through their bones. Cross the field. Reach the beacon. Fail, and you will be erased. A faint glow appeared far in the distance, deep inside the labyrinth. Single shining beacon pulsed like a star behind walls of wreckage. That was their goal. Elias exhaled slowly, then spoke with calm resolve. Rena, set a course. Marcus, get me every ounce of power the engines can give. Leanne, keep sensors alive. We're not failing this. Rena's hands flew across the controls. The horizon moved forward, slipping into the maze of alien debris. Almost instantly, the environment shifted against them. Massive shards of metal drifted across their path, colliding like moving barriers. Some pieces glowed faintly, releasing bursts of energy that cracked through space. The crew gritted their teeth as the ship weaved through narrow gaps. The hum of the engines straining with every turn. Marcus cursed under his breath as panels sparked. They're pushing us into walls. These fragments aren't random there. Moving on purpose. Leanne checked her sensors, her voice sharp. It's a controlled field. They're testing reaction time, adaptability. Elias stayed calm. Then we adapt faster. The horizon tilted sharply, sliding between two massive plates of alien steel that slammed shut behind them like jaws. The crew felt the rush of air shift through the ship, the pressure screaming against the hull. Yet none of them panicked. Rena grinned faintly, sweat dripping from her forehead. "And all you got?" she muttered at the maze itself. The alien? Watchers observed from their ship, eyes fixed on every human movement. They expected collapse, but instead they saw rhythm coordination. The humans worked as if the chaos fed their energy, their voices calm, their reactions sharp. It was not perfection. It was something else. Defiance turned into survival. Halfway through the maze, the horizon was struck. A surge of energy blasted across its hull, shaking the ship violently. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, panels went dark. Rena struggled to hold control. Elias braced against his chair. Marcus ran to seal a breach. Smoke filled part of the room. Leanne coughed, but kept her eyes on the sensors. We're still alive. Engines holding at 70%. Voice rumbled again, carrying cold judgment. Weakness shown. Continue, or end. Elias wiped sweat from his brow and growled, "We continue." His words cut through the crew's fear like a blade. They pushed forward again. As they neared the beacon, the final trial emerged. 3 massive structures unfolded, forming a blockade. Energy fields shimmered between them, walls of light impossible to cross. Marcus slammed a fist against the console. It's a dead end. We can't break through. Leanne's eyes scanned the data, her voice sharp. There's a narrow weakness in the fields, but it's moving fast. Rena gripped the controls, teeth clenched. So we hit it when it opens. Elias nodded once. Do it. The horizon roared forward, engines straining at their limits. The glowing walls shifted, pulsing like living barriers. For a moment, the weakness appeared no wider than a door. Rena's hands moved with lightning speed, twisting the ship into the gap. The horizon scraped through, alarms screaming, hull plating shattering from the pressure. But they broke through. The beacon pulsed brighter, bathing them in white light. The maze behind them collapsed, vanishing into darkness. The horizon floated free, battered but alive. Silence followed, then the alien voice returned. This time, slower, almost thoughtful. You endure. You adapt. You cross where others fall. Inside the alien chamber, the watchers sat in heavy silence. The female's eyes glowed with sharp interest. They treat danger as play. They treat survival as routine. Perhaps they are more than they seem. The commander gave no answer, but his gaze lingered on the human ship longer than before. On the horizon, Marcus leaned back, coughing through the smoke. Well, he said with a grin, I'd call that a win. Rena laughed shakily, her hands still trembling on the controls. Leanne stared at the fading glow of the beacon, her mind spinning with questions. Elia simply looked forward, his voice calm and steady. We crossed their test, but this isn't over. They still have to decide what we mean to them.
Outside!
The alien warship hovered, silent and watching, no longer just a predator. Now it was something else, a judge uncertain of its own verdict. The horizon drifted free from the alien maze, its hull scarred, smoke still rising from vents, lights flickering in weak patterns, yet the ship was alive and so was its crew. Every person on board felt the exhaustion in their bones, but behind it lay something stronger, a fierce pride. They'd crossed the trial, endured the storm, and come out standing. The beacon's glow faded, and with it the labyrinth dissolved into the void, leaving only the massive alien warship hovering before them, silent and unreadable. The crew sat quietly, waiting. Nobody joked this time. Even Marcus, with his usual humor, leaned against his chair in silence, staring at the looming vessel on the screen. The aliens had tested them, pushed them to the edge of destruction. Now came the verdict. Elias stood tall, brushing ash from his uniform, his eyes fixed on the alien ship. His face carried no fear, only the steady calm that had carried his crew. Through the darkness, the translator AI sparked to life again. A deep, resonant voice filled the horizon, vibrating through every surface. You endured. You crossed where others would fall. You laugh at danger. You treat our trials as if they are nothing. Why? The crew exchanged glances, waiting for their captain. Elias stepped closer to the come, his voice steady. Because we are human, we move forward. We survive by refusing to stop, by refusing to bow. We didn't mean to cross your border, but once we did, There was no choice but to keep going. That is who we are. The words echoed across the void, carried into the alien chamber, where the watchers studied every sound, every expression. Followed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship moved closer, so close it filled the horizon's entire screen. Energy surged across its surface, brighter than ever before, as if the entire vessel was preparing to strike. Gripped the controls, ready to fight even though she knew resistance would mean nothing. Marcus clenched his jaw. Leanne whispered a soft prayer under her breath. The light reached its peak hand, then faded. Instead of destruction, a symbol appeared on the alien vessel's surface, glowing like fire across its hull. The translator AI struggled, then spoke. "You are marked." Elias frowned. "Marked for what?" he asked aloud. The answer came slower this time, almost like the aliens themselves were thinking carefully with each word. "Marked as those who step beyond. Marked as those who cannot be caged. Perhaps marked as kin." The crew froze. The meaning was unclear, yet it carried no malice. Inside the alien chamber, the council argued in quiet voices. The commander's gaze was hard, but the female with cold eyes spoke sharply. They crossed sacred ground and survived trials meant to break them. To destroy them now would be waste. They carry something dangerous, something powerful. They do not fear, do not kneel. "We have not seen this in ages," another replied. Bitterly, "They are reckless. They bring chaos wherever they walk." But she answered, "Chaos, yes, and strength. The galaxy may need both." The commander finally raised his hand, ending the debate. His voice was heavy with finality. "Let them leave. They are not prey. They are not yet allies. They are something in between. But we will remember them." The alien warship shifted, its lights dimming, its form slowly withdrawing. The horizon shook as the pressure around it lifted. The screens cleared, the stars returned, and suddenly they were back in open space. The alien vessel remained visible for a moment longer, its massive shadow dominating the void. Then, without a sound, it vanished, slipping back into the cloak of nothingness from which it came. The crew exhaled as one. Relief swept through the horizon like a wave. Marcus dropped into his chair and laughed weakly. "Well, I guess we passed." Rena covered her face with her hands, then grinned through her exhaustion. "We should be dead right now," Leanne stared at her console, still shaking slightly, but with a faint smile on her lips. "But we're not, and they let us go." Elias looked out at the stars, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke, his voice low. "They didn't just let us go. They recognized us. They respect us. Even if they don't admit it in their way. That means something." Silence settled in the control room, the weight of what had happened slowly sinking in. The horizon was battered, scarred and marked in ways the galaxy would never forget. They had walked into alien territory without fear, faced trials meant to erase them, and left alive. More than that, they had earned respect from a power far older and stronger than humanity itself. Marcus stretched, smirking again. "So, what do we tell Command? We accidentally walked into forbidden space, stared down a warship, beat their deadly maze, and got out alive?" Rena rolled her eyes but laughed. "They won't believe a word of it." Leanne shook her head. "Maybe. They don't need to. Maybe it's enough that we were there and that we survived." Elias finally turned back to his crew, his voice firm but calm. "Write it all down, every detail. One day, someone will need to know what happened here. And when they ask how humans face the impossible, the answer will be simple. We treated it as another step forward." Outside the horizon, the stars burned quietly, endless and indifferent. Yet somewhere in the shadows of the galaxy, the Watchers carried the memory of humanity with them. The line had been crossed, the test endured, and respect had been earned, not begged for, not stolen, but claimed the human way, casually, stubbornly, and without fear. And so the horizon moved on, scarred but unbroken, carrying its crew back into the unknown. leaving behind only whispers in the dark of the race that dared to cross the line and treated it as nothing at all.